Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Joe again. So I wanted to hop on real quick. It's been kind of a wild morning trading the S&P 500. And so I kind of want to make a video to kind of go through my experience with this morning. Um, it was a morning of could have beens and managing trades, and yeah. So I'm recording this. It is 11:01 on Thursday morning, the 19th. So I want to go ahead and jump in. So we saw overnight the Asia session. I'm going to go ahead and start on the 1 hour time frame here. So we saw on the overnight, price rallied up and then sold off during London pretty heavily, but didn't. It kind of like poked through here a little bit, just kind of barely touched below that, and we've got this line, this level from, I can't even reach it on there. It's basically a daily, like one of the last like daily swing highs. So expectation is kind of for price to run down that. Even ICT was calling out around that level this morning on his Twitter. He was calling that out as a level to be watched. Um, so but looking at some of the other indices, NASDAQ didn't take out that level, but US 30 did trade down through its equivalent of that level. So while, yes, I was still wanting price to run through that, ideally, before we started moving back to the upside, I was also kind of open to the potential of a long in the morning. So going down to the 15-minute time frame here, as you can see, this is the overnight, you know, sorry, over here, Asia session. We traded up. That's kind of forming the upper wick of the daily candle. Midnight open in New York. We sold off aggressively, went below this low, and we've now started trading back up into this. So as you can see, we've got some pretty crazy wicks, like pushing up towards that. Um, so, sell side had been taken here, buy side had been taken right at London, New York midnight open. Buy side was taken. We took the sell side. So it's another thing that's kind of thinking like, well, maybe price is going to seek a little bit of buy side liquidity. Now we did see here at about 7:45, price did go above this swing high here. So technically, you could say, okay, well, buy side was taken there, so maybe now price is going to go back down to the sell side. Um, I wasn't super convinced. I was still kind of skeptical. Price was above the 8:30 open. It was kind of hanging out above there. It kind of aggressively ran up there. Um, but now getting into the actual trading for this morning. So as you can see, here's the 8:30 open. Here's the New York midnight open. This upper orange line. So price kind of at 8:30, it kind of sold off a little bit, kind of went down, and then started rallying up. So it took sell side liquidity here, and then it had built up this swing high here, which it didn't, quite get to yet, but it did kind of, or sorry. So it had this swing high here. It came down, took sell side, and then price began to rally ahead of the 9:30 open. So on ICT's Twitter, and I'm not using this as a crutch or anything, but I was following along with him this morning. He was kind of pointing out like watch the 38.53 level, the lows there and stuff. So it was kind of reinforcing that bearish mindset a little bit. I did see a fair value gap here that I had made a trade on that, as you can see, quickly shot through. And the mistake there was taking a trade right before the 9:30 open. And that was another thing ICT had actually even called out on his Twitter. He was like, don't take that fair value gap right before the 9:30, and of course I got burned. So, still me developing as a student, trying to develop that patience. But so anyways, price ran up, absorbed all that buy side liquidity. And around this time, I actually had to leave to go take my son to work. But I had, even on the comments on ICT's Twitter, I had called out this 1 minute fair value gap down here. As I said, wouldn't this be a valid spot to look for longs? And, I received a reply that was kind of like, stick to the bias. The bias is bearish. Don't waffle on your bias, right? But I was, again, like, based on some things I had noticed, I was kind of like, I think this would be an area that I would be interested in taking along from. Now, of course, like I said, about 9:35-ish, basically right around here at this top, I was leaving my house. And I didn't get home until over here somewhere, like 10:15-ish. So, of course, as soon as I sat down at my chart, when I got back, I saw that this buy, which, knowing myself, had I been sitting at my desk, I probably would have taken this trade. I might have pushed the stop down a little bit, but I mean, honestly, like, this sell side liquidity was taken with this wick here, and then it ran higher, and then after the equities, it drove down as kind of like a Judas swing. So there was a lot that I kind of saw that would at least run price back up into here, potentially the New York Open or Midnight Open. So I probably would have taken this trade. And as you can see, I mean, as I had it marked out, this was a 22.7 to 1 risk to reward. It ran in total at its highest point for, so basically 38.77 to the high was 39.24. So, almost 50 points on a 2.6 stop loss. So, I mean, it would have been a killer trade. With 14, 15 to 1, something like that. Maybe even a little more than that, maybe closer to 20. But yeah, it would have been a killer trade. Probably would have taken at the majority of the position off at this high, especially when it started kind of doing this. Just thinking through what I would have done. Like I said, obviously I wasn't at my desk. So again, I kind of got back home. Actually, I was doing trading on my phone on the way home and monitoring ICT's, Twitter feed and stuff to kind of stay in tune with his dialogue. And, so we have this energetic move up, an energetic move back down. And again, had I been in front of my chart, I would have wanted it to take this out. But, it kind of left behind relative equal lows. But so then the attention was kind of called to this gap. This gap right here, essentially. And so I took a trade there on my phone, put the stop above here because of how volatile it was. Went into profit a little bit, but then, as you can see, stopped me out there. And took the buy side liquidity here. So, and then came down again, taking the sell side, left behind a fair value gap. This one here, I was less than a minute off of getting this limit in. And, as you can see, it's kind of consolidating around now above the 8:30 open. But, initially it did run, back down to the 8:30 open for a quick, it would have been a quick, let's see, 28 points. It would have been a quick 2-to-1 trade, roughly a little over, had I caught that a minute sooner. So that was kind of frustrating. That could have made back my losses from today at the very least. And obviously this was the one that sucked. Because even still, you draw this out in time, it hasn't come back below the 8:30 open technically. And there's another fair value gap right here that technically price has wicked into a couple of times already. So I do believe ICT is correct in the fact that these prices are probably going to get run through. This 38.75 level is probably going to get run through if not before lunch, after lunch. Um, but, you know, I would have already been out with 14-15% profit on that buy had I been at my desk and kind of stuck with my own guns on that a little bit. Because honestly, like looking at the daily chart here, let me maximize that. Looking at the daily chart, you know, we came down, swing low, went back up, rallied the last couple days, formed a swing high, absorbed all of the buy side liquidity up in here. We've left behind, you know, these kind of relative equal highs here, and then a big energetic move down that, like I said, on US 30, this move down cleared this wick to the left. So immediately I'm watching the low of this candle as a point that it could draw back up to at the very least. So again, it was another kind of supporting thing that there might be a little bit of bullishness in the market today. So yeah, so kind of a mixed bag of a day. I definitely missed a big trade that I would have loved to have caught. I still think price is going to move lower before it comes up to this, you know, 4,000 level. But yeah, so, you know, missed out on, you know, at least 15-16%. You know, took a couple of losses that would have easily been mitigated by those wins. So yeah, you know, this is kind of one of the days that I need to reflect on and learn from, and realized what I, you know, work on patience. Don't trade on my phone. Like if I'm, you know, if I miss the move, I can catch the next one, you know. Yeah, so, you know, it's just the difficulties that I'm sure everyone listening to this video can probably relate to at some point in their career, if they're still not dealing with that like I am, obviously. So but on a separate note, ICT is back on Twitter, and that has been very great. This morning he basically had a running dialogue of him tape rating, you know, watching price and calling out areas of where he thinks we should be studying. And, you know, obviously he does not recommend executing based on any of his things. And, you know, I wasn't necessarily executing based on what he was saying, but in times that my bias was lining up with his, you know, obviously I did try to jump in on those trades. So, but, you know, still learning, still growing. So let me know, as always, in the comments. I'd love to hear, you know, what you were looking at this morning, what you were trading, how it went, you know, what you think about, you know, S&P this morning if you weren't watching it, what you think about this video, and where you're at on your trading journey, whether or not you're an ICT student or not, past, present, or if this is your first time seeing something like this and you want to know more, you know, head over to ICT's YouTube Mentorship. You know, that's the best place to learn these concepts. So yeah, that's all I got for this morning. I think I'm done trading the morning session. I need to just, you know, cut it off and reflect on it. Might keep an eye on what the afternoon session does. But yeah, I think, you know, heading into Friday and stuff, like the week is kind of winding down, and definitely don't want to keep falling victim to over trading or anything like that. So yeah, so until I talk to you next time, stay safe, good luck, and happy trading.